Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into today's first video. We're going to have a look at the ECMWF 30-day model for today's first video. Looking at the temperature and precipitation anomalies for the next 4 weeks, the next month for the UK and for the rest of Europe as well. We're at the Hungarian Met Office for this, so a big thank you to them for supplying us with the charts. This will be the last ECM 30-day look ahead for a little while. Next week, of course, it's Christmas Eve week today, and then the following Tuesday will be New Year's Eve. So we won't be doing this video for a couple of weeks. The next EC 30-day update will be on Tuesday, the 7th of January. In the new year. So I'll get on that for you very shortly, just to say about coming up later on today, we're going to have your week to 10-day video update with all of the regular features, and then tonight I think we're going to have a Christmas update coming up. I say we're at the Hungarian Met Office for this one, so a big thank you to them for supplying us with the charts. And we can't show you mean sail pressure or 500 millibar heights, but you can get a rough idea of what model is forecasting from its temperature and precipitation anomalies. So we're going to start off with week 1 for our forecast period. It's week 51 for the year, nearly at the end of 2019. Of course, it's taking us from the 19th to the 22nd of December, and really warm Europe this week. So we can see that particularly these eastern and southeastern parts of Europe, really from the north of Italy up to the west of Russia, we are exceptionally mild. In fact, we're exceptionally warm, really, with the anomaly of 6 to 10 degrees, and even a little bit of a patch just there, darker red, but actually goes over 10 degrees. It's only a very limited area, but up to 10 degrees above average widely across eastern and southeastern parts of Europe. It's very mild in all areas, really. Even in the north and the west, it's very mild. We've got France up to 10 degrees, 6 to 10 degrees above average. Southern parts of Scandinavia, around Denmark, we're around 3 to 6 degrees above average. Only in the very, 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 very far northwest, kind of like Norway and the UK and to Ireland, are we close to average. Even here, we're generally above average, but we're around 1 to 3 degrees, so it's not quite as exceptionally warm in the northwest of Europe, the extreme northwest. And in fact, we do have the Irish Republic coming out as pretty much the only area in Europe, the only country in Europe that is slightly below average in the week ahead. So lucky old Ireland, if you like, below average temperature anomaly, just a little bit below average there. But essentially, it is an exceptionally mild week coming up across most parts of Europe, really mild as well, through much of the Mediterranean, well above average, especially across eastern parts of the Med. Precipitation-wise, got a bit of an east-west split. So western and particularly southwestern parts of Europe, from Italy over towards Spain and Portugal, then northwards to France into the UK, above average with precipitation in those areas, and those above average rainfall anomalies also extending into the south of Scandinavia as well. Northern parts of Scandinavia are drier than average, and then many eastern parts of Europe, really from Germany eastwards, coming out drier than average. So obviously this is quite a warm ridge that we've got sitting across many central and eastern parts of Europe, bringing dry but also very mild conditions. But cooler weather is where the more unsettled conditions will be out across the far west of Europe. But even there, I have to emphasise again, it's generally quite mild across even most western parts of Europe in the week ahead. We move on into week 2, which is week 52 for the year. So it's taking us over Christmas period from the 23rd to the 29th of December. Final week of 2019, of course. So we see that, again, it's well above average with the temperature anomaly across many central and eastern parts of Europe, really from sort of Poland eastwards over to the Black Sea, and then up to some parts of Russia, above average temperatures there. Not quite as warm as it is in week 1, but nevertheless, we're still talking about 3 to 6 degrees above average. Many western parts of Europe are still above average, but a little bit less so, if you see what I mean. So for Germany, for Belgium, Holland, France, Spain, Portugal, we're sort of 1 to 3 degrees above average. So it's still milder than average even in the west of Europe, but the warmest conditions are over on the eastern side of Europe. And in the extreme northwest, actually we're close to average. So again, for much of the UK, much of Ireland, much of Scandinavia, especially Norway and Sweden, central and northern parts of Norway and Sweden anyway, we're closer to average there. So it is a little bit cooler in the extreme northwest, but most places are still milder than average for this final full week of the year. Precipitation wise, this is how things are looking. So a bit of a change in that eastern parts of Europe are going slightly above average with precipitation, really from Germany eastwards to west of Russia, goes a little bit above average with precipitation. Further northwards, so Sweden generally a little bit above average with rainfall, but Norway is drier than average, possibly indicative of a little bit of high pressure starting to set up perhaps towards Norway, maybe other parts of Scandinavia. The UK turning a bit drier too, especially northern parts of the UK. So Scotland, Northern England, a little bit drier than average there. The southwest of Europe, France, Spain, Portugal, close to average with precipitation, and then through the Mediterranean, it doesn't look too bad at all, really, if you're planning a bit of a Christmas holiday to the Med. So the central basin of the Med looks generally drier than average from the Balearic Islands, Mallorca, Menorca, and Ibiza over to Italy. Still be on the drier than average side there. And with above average temperatures, I think it's going to be relatively pleasant, as I say, if anyone is planning a Christmas holiday into the Mediterranean islands. Greece does look a little bit wetter than average, as does Turkey. So in the extreme southeastern part of Med, it's a little bit wetter than average there. But overall, if you're off to say the central bowl of the Med, it doesn't look too bad in terms of the temperature and rainfall anomalies. Right, we go through to week 3, which is week 1 for 2020. This is the first week of 2020, taking us from the 30th of December to the 5th of January. Temperature anomalies now are going much closer to average. You see it's milder than average in the far north, so for northern parts of Norway, over towards Iceland, and in towards Scotland as well. It's milder than average here by around 3 to 6 degrees in 1 or 2 areas above average. So that's wrong. That's 1 to 3 degrees above average quite widely there to the far north of Europe. But otherwise, most of the areas are going closer to average. It looks a little bit cooler here in this southwestern part, so through parts of France, Spain, Portugal, into the central bowl of the Med. It's a little bit cooler than average, actually, in those areas. Eastern parts of Europe, where it has been very mild, in fact warm, up to this point, it's going closer to average. It does appear that there's some sort of a cool down beginning to take place there around the new year across many parts of Europe. Precipitation-wise, for week 3, 30th of December to 5th of January, we look like this. So, again, many western parts of Europe are drier than average. Spain, Portugal, France, into the UK. Drier than average conditions here. Central parts of Europe are close to average with precipitation. I mean, down in the southeastern part of the Med, from Italy over to Greece, it's a bit wetter than average. So more necessarily in the southeast corner, drier in the northwest. Presumably some sort of area of high pressure is beginning to develop across western parts of Europe. I would have thought maybe a ridge centred somewhere around here, and the jet stream goes into that sort of area maybe. So that keeps things a little bit milder in the far north of the UK and up towards Scandinavia as well. And then finally into week 4, which is week 2 for 2020. It's the 6th to the 12th of January. This is how we look. So Scandinavia comes out milder than average. It's a milder than average week for much of Scandinavia. Elsewhere, though, close to average. We're losing the signal now, I think, really more than anything else, as we've arrived at week 4. Looks a little bit cooler than average for Spain and Portugal, possibly to the west of the UK and Ireland as well. Just a little bit cooler than average there. Otherwise, there's not a great deal going on. Just lots of white, which is either average or probably more likely no signal. Precipitation-wise, also very weak signals. It looks wetter than average here across the very far north, so to the north of the UK, to Iceland. It's wetter than average there, probably bringing the jet stream through to the far north of Europe. Otherwise, very close to average with precipitation. Again, probably indicative of the fact that we don't have a signal. As we've gone 4 weeks out, the model has lost its signal. What we can say is that there's no sign of any sustained cold weather up to the new year. In fact, we start off very, very mild indeed, and although things do cool down and go closer to average by the new year and into the early part of 2020, some of that could just be down to the fact that the model is losing the signal. There's certainly no sign of anything particularly cold. In the next 4 weeks, there's very little sign of any sort of proper northern blocking either. If anything, we possibly go a little bit away from that and send the jet stream of the areas of low pressure to the very far north of the Atlantic and the north of Europe, which would allow mild air to infiltrate from southern parts of Europe and the central Atlantic. So there's no sign of anything particularly cold here with the ECM for the next 4 weeks, but we shall carry on looking for some colder weather as we get into the new year, and I'm sure eventually we will find a bit of a cool down taking place, particularly across northern and eastern parts of Europe, I would have thought. But that's it for the final ECMWF 30-day look ahead for this year. As I said, we're going to take a break for the next couple of weeks, because next week on Tuesday it's going to be Christmas Eve, and then the following Tuesday will be New Year's Eve. So the EC 30-day look ahead will be back on Tuesday the 7th of January. And we'll see what the ECMWF is forecasting then for January, and probably into just start of February as well, I would have thought. So we'll see then whether there's any sign of the arrival of some wintry weather. Right, that's it. We'll be back later on with the week 10-day video update, so come back for that then. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.